عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا بكم في قناتي على اليوتيوب. بما أننا في أزمة كورونا فأصبح فيه عامل مشترك في التفكير ما بين الناس. يقال أنه من رحم المعاناة يولد الأمل، من رحم المعاناة تأتي الفرص. وبما أننا في أزمة وجائحة تواجه العالم كله، أصبح تفكير العالم من الجانب الإنساني الذي أصبح مسيطر عليهم كلهم في التكاتف لمواجهة الفرص في مواجهة هذه الأزمة. أصبح هناك عامل مشترك في التفكير وهو تعدد مصادر الدخل. كل ما تيجي تتكلم مع حد يقول لك ما هو أنا لو كنت عندي أكتر من مصدر دخل. كل ما تيجي تتكلم مع حد يقول لك إن إحنا اتعلمنا من الأزمة دي إننا نعدد مصادر الدخل. وعلشان كده في المحاضرة دي هنعرض لحاجة وفكرة جديدة جدا. الفكرة دي كانت جديدة علي أنا شخصيا، وهي إن تحت الصحراء يوجد أنهار، وفي عمق الصحراء توجد الآبار. بمعنى إن الصحراء الكبيرة الشاسعة اللي قدامك إن لو أنت مشيت فيها ممكن تموت من العطش، تحتها في خيرات. نفس فكرة كورونا كده بالظبط. في هذا العالم اللي بيموج بالمشاكل وبيموج بالتخبط ويموج بالاضطرابات، في فرص بتبقى قدامك انت مش واخد بالك منها. الفرص دي عمرها ما هتكون استغلال الناس، لانك حتى لو انت تخليت عن الطابع الانساني اللي جواك واستغليت الفرص لصالحك، فده عمره ما هيدوم، بالعكس هينقلب عليك الامر وعمر ما هيكون فيه بركه. ولكن انك تحصل على فرص وتبتكر افكار جديده تخدم بيها نفسك وتحصل بيها على عائد وتقدم بيها خدمات للناس تسهل لهم حياتهم. تعالوا مع بعض في المحاضره دي نتعرف على مواضيع وامور زي كده. يلا بينا.
Thank you. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, everyone. It's an honor to have this opportunity to speak to everyone during what is a difficult time for everyone's business. I'm sure we've all by now got to grips with the difference that this COVID-19 is making to all of our businesses. It's changing everything overnight. Now, this presentation is not me telling you that I'm a fantastic expert and here's how to grow your business in a crisis. As much as anything else, this presentation is me going through with you the story that I've lived through over the past year. Everyone loves the glory days. Everyone loves an incredible story of someone making it against the odds. But actually, sometimes we need the true, real stories of people who sometimes struggle, of people who have to find their own way. And so this is what this presentation is about. Before I get to my more recent story, I want to talk about how things were before COVID-19 hit. Let's do a little bit of nostalgia. So we told people, and we all believed, that if you know the right clients, you'll get work. If you know companies who are growing, if you know companies who are exporting, if you're friends with the right people and the right agencies, then work would come. That sounded fairly correct, it sounded fairly accurate, it sounded predictable, and so we all believed it. Then we had this idea that if you're good enough, your reputation will ensure your career. I had someone explain it to me as the spider web strategy, that if you are excellent, if you've practiced enough, if you've spent enough on professional development, that your reputation would be enough in itself to build your career. I know very many highly respected trainers who I respect myself, who have built their training message on the back of this idea that if you're good enough, your reputation will ensure your career. And lastly, we have this idea that if you do the right things, the right results will come. That really sums up everything. This idea that if you got the right sales method or marketing method, if you had the right skills, if you knew the right clients, if you were in the right places, well, here comes the right results. Now, I have no doubt that for many people in many areas, before COVID-19 came, these were all true. And many people made a living training translators and interpreters according to these truths. And for a while, they seemed to be truths. But what happened? As I mentioned before, here comes coronavirus, COVID-19. I don't know anyone who hasn't been affected in some way. Interpreters have lost thousands, if not tens of thousands of pounds or dollars. Companies have lost millions in bookings. Translators have either seen their work grow hugely because they work in the medical field, or halved or lost by 75%. Everyone has been affected somehow by COVID-19, and the truths that we took for granted about our profession, the way that we thought it was, now the world just isn't like that anymore. And I'm a firm believer that there's no point in denying reality. There's no point in pretending that things can go on as they did before. There's no point in trying to fool everyone with pretty Instagram pictures and lovely quotes that you're having a great life when you're struggling. There's simply no point in that. COVID-19 has affected everyone, and so now what do we do? Well, now what? This is a question that I'm going to repeat throughout this presentation, and at this point I want to challenge you. Now what? Now that COVID-19 has hit, now that many of us have been stuck at home for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months, now what? The initial panic is probably over for many of us, although there's probably some residual anxiety and fear. So, now what? Our concerns are still there, so now what? What do we do now? Before I make suggestions and before I tell my own story, I want to cycle back a bit. There's this thing before called Brexit, which started kicking off in 2016. And for me, it was the crisis before the crisis. You see, as soon as it became clearer what kind of Brexit the UK government were after, the world of interpreting, certainly in my neck of the woods, seemed to fall apart. I live in Edinburgh, in Scotland, and even on a good day, it's not the kind of place where anyone can make a living just by doing conference and business interpreting. So my work, for the past year, my interpreting work has been incredibly quiet. There's been a real struggle, and in the past year I've seen one of the worst, in fact the worst, single income period of my entire career, apart from that first year when everything is coming together. Brexit for me was a crisis before the crisis, and it got to the point where I even considered leaving the profession altogether, because nothing seemed to be working. Reality hit. What kind of reality hit? Well, I knew all the right clients, I knew all the big agencies, I knew the people who had the links with the clients who could buy interpreting, and they all had no work for a 6 months period. I would check with the big agencies, I would check with my colleagues and friends, and nothing was happening. I asked 2 agencies who I know have some of the largest interpreting contracts for conference and business interpreting in the entire country, and they said, we don't have anything. We haven't had anything, not just in your combination, but we haven't had anything in conference and business work for months. I was good enough. I had a growing reputation, as you'll find out later. I was speaking at events, I was writing articles for people, I was getting out there. And while I was meeting lots of people, while I was going networking at just the right events, while I was among the right crowd, while I was talking to businesses who had something to sell and were looking at exporting, no one was ready to pay. The feedback I was getting from businesses was, you've got some great ideas and we'd love to work with you, but until Brexit's calmed down, we don't really want to do anything new. It's too much of a risk. I would get feedback from government agencies saying, you've got some great training there, but could you deliver it for free? I was good enough. I'd been working on my skills. I'd done some really high-profile jobs. I had a great reputation. Wasn't creating any paying clients. I did all the right things. I was sometimes invited to consult on interpreting jobs, which went to other countries. I was in the right rooms. I was around all the right businesses. I was doing all the marketing. I was creating an email marketing thing. Businesses were just wary of exporting. They were wary of hiring interpreting. And what made it hard is that I heard of other people getting interpreting jobs. You know, anyone can go on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter and see colleagues getting jobs. But for me, there just wasn't anything. It's a question I faced. The answer could have been to leave the profession and the sector altogether, and I considered that. I got to the point of looking up jobs on job sites. The answer could have been to just try harder, but trying harder didn't get results. Now what? I want to turn this question to you. Now what are you going to do? You know the state of your business. You know how many clients you've had in the last month or however long. Now what are you going to do? It's a question that faced me, and it's a question that's facing you. Now what? Before we go any further, we have to bust some myths. The answer to your now what question can't be founded on the same ideas about our businesses before, because the realities that undergirded our businesses simply aren't true anymore. Let's look at some prevalent myths in the sector. First is the myth of control, and this is a myth across all business development, coaching and thinking. The idea behind the myth of control is that if you do the right actions, your actions will control your business outcomes. If you make enough sales calls, you'll make a sale. If you do enough marketing, you'll get new clients. If you go to enough events, something with the right people will come to you. The myth of control is so prevalent that we easily forget that it's a myth. In fact, very few business coaches would ever want to admit it's a myth, because training is sold on the basis of control. That if you teach people to do the right things, they will get the right outcomes and they want to pay you more money. When people don't get results, they tend not to come back. And that leads to the myth of value. This is an unspoken one. I've never heard someone say this out loud, but in our implicit thinking, in the way that we treat each other, this myth is incredibly prevalent. The myth of value says that you are your income or your business. I've heard people say, you know, you're not selling services, you're selling you. Or good translators make lots of money. If you're a good interpreter, you should have no problem gaining clients. And so we feed each other the myth that if your business is doing well, then you're doing well and you're fantastic. If your business is doing badly, well, maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you're not the right kind of person. If your business is doing badly, maybe there's something wrong with you. Well, we would never say such things out loud, but we might think them. The way that we treat each other might reflect that. The myth of value is a very dangerous myth for our mental health and for our future. Then there's the myth of prediction. The myth of prediction says that whatever worked yesterday is going to work today. It says that past results and experiences predict the future. If last year an email marketing campaign got you great results, then the same thing will happen this year. If last year going to such and such a convention won you a client, then the same thing will happen if you do it this year. If it worked for so-and-so 20 years ago, it's sure to work for you. It sounds good, it sounds nice, but it's a myth. And lastly, and this is the one that's the subtlest, and I'm aware of the irony of talking about this myth. In the social sciences where I do my research, when you have a study that only includes results from one person, we call it an N=1 study. And they rarely get published because one person's experience doesn't always indicate much. But in the translation and interpreting sector, we will quite happily have heroes or people we look up to whose experiences are taken as cast iron truth. If it worked for so-and-so, then it will work for everyone. If it works in the finance sector, then it will work in the tourism sector. If it works in the arts sector, then it will work in the legal sector. If it works for this expert, then it's true for everyone. I've spent far too long in my career trying to emulate experts to believe that myth anymore. And so that's why I'm not doing this presentation as an expert who has all the answers, but as someone who's coming to you saying, this is my story. Maybe you can learn something from it. I hope you can learn things from it. You don't need to copy it. You don't need to follow my path. We'll come to that later. Remember, all of these are myths. And so, understanding that those were all myths led to taking opportunities. Sadly, I couldn't find the photo that I wanted. One of the earliest things that happened during this period was that I was invited to speak at the Conf 1NT 100 conference in Geneva. That was a conference to celebrate 100 years of conference interpreting. And not only did I get the opportunity to speak there, but I got the opportunity to lead the last town hall session with my fellow hosts of the podcast Troublesome Terps. It was a fantastic opportunity to be around the right people, to be around experts, to be around people who've been in interpreting for far longer than I've been alive, to hear stories of the history of interpreting, to hear discussions of technology and interpreting and where everything's going, and to get a fantastic overview of the sector itself, certainly the conference interpreting sector. That was a wonderful opportunity. And the picture that is on screen is an opportunity which really made a difference to me. I had bugged an event organiser about the fact that their exporting event didn't say anything about languages. Well, I was then invited to deliver a webinar for Scottish Enterprise, which is our national government agency trying to encourage business development and growth. I presented a webinar for them. It's still on their website. You can find it. And they liked the webinar so much, this website page shows you that they actually integrated it into a case study on languages for business. And so now I became known as the expert in languages for business. Unbeknownst to me, while I was delivering that webinar live, one of the listeners was a senior person in the Scottish Centre for Languages, who then asked me, well, since you know translation and interpreting so well, could you come and sit on our expert panel for an event we've got on languages for business? So not only did I do the webinar, which was watched by international trade advisors and business people, but I got to sit on an expert panel. And that expert panel put me in front of businesses and potential clients. But none of these opportunities, none of them led to interpreting work. But they were opportunities, and I would encourage you to look for opportunities just now. Even in the driest, most difficult times, there are opportunities that you can take. There are opportunities to help your colleagues. There are opportunities to write some helpful advice to clients. There are opportunities to get your name out there. There are opportunities to contribute to magazines and studies and research. Go out and proactively look for opportunities, and you'll be surprised what you find, what they look like, where they take you. Your business might not be growing right now, but if you take the right opportunities, you can set yourself up for the future so that your reputation grows. And a little ironic thing, if you search for my name on google.co.uk, you'll find that my reputation has grown to the point where I now have a little sidebar info box that tells people more about me. The opportunities that you take today are building your reputation for tomorrow, and they could even be building the profession ready to deal with the challenges of tomorrow. None of these opportunities on their own led to interpreting work, but they did build something important, and they did help me come across other work opportunities too. But alongside those opportunities were really bad knocks. The first one, as you can see at the top, is when I actually chased one of my clients, I should say, about a project that I'd done 2 years ago, which I knew was coming back around. I chased them and said, I've got experience in this, it was great fun, I think I did a good job, what's going on? By the time the client got back to me, they said, we're really sorry, it was someone else in the company who dealt with it this year, and the project went to another interpreter. One interpreting project which seemed like an absolute certainty went to another interpreter. Then there's the knock of being around business groups and translation and interpreting groups where when you admit that you're struggling, you get the chorus of, have you tried X? Have you tried Y? Have you tried email? Have you tried pay-per-click advertising? Have you tried going to this event? Have you tried going to that event? And it's lovely that people want to help. But almost all the time they were saying things that I had already tried and shown weren't working. This have you tried idea usually comes from the thought that if you do what works for me, that it will work for you. And this, of course, is the myth of N+1 and the myth of control all over again. Sometimes instead of asking people, have you tried something? The best thing to do is to listen to their actual concerns and to support them emotionally first, unless they're asking you for a solid business idea. Then came a solid business idea which could have been so much better. I was used to pitching to magazines and making money writing for magazines, and I saw a magazine that paid really well and seemed to be right in my wheelhouse. So I drafted a pitch and they thought it was a good idea. So then I took the time to write them a long-form article. Now, if you know anything about writing for magazines, you'll realise that being asked to write the article doesn't necessarily mean that they'll publish it. And when I wrote the article in my best writing, the editor came back 4 or 5 weeks later and said, I don't think this article would be suitable for our publication. I don't think this article would be right for us. Several £100 of possible work down the toilet, hours of work for nothing. It was a definite knock. And then the hardest knock of them all. Seeing all of this coming, knowing that I had abilities in research, I had applied for a research place under a European Union grant with a university in Finland. And after waiting for months and months, I received an email with the immortal words, we regret to inform you that your application for funding has been rejected. There's a myth of control all over again. I had gone to their summer school on writing the grant for that project. I had worked with people who had experience in winning that money. Everything that they told me was based on the prediction that what worked in the past would work this time. And we'd heard cases from successful people who had got the grant. The myth of control, the myth of prediction, the myth of N+1, all exploded in one go. What looked like my safety net, what looked like my way out, was gone. And I would be lying if I tried to tell you that that didn't have a marked effect on me that took days to recover from. So it is sometimes. But what about the myth of value? All of these things, all of these knocks, didn't talk about the myth of value. Well, the myth of value is really important to understand, and here are some of the lessons that I've been learning and that I'm still learning. I've not got them all down pat yet. The most important lesson to learn, and I think you must remember right now, is that you are not your business. Even if your business name is your name, you're not your business. If your business is struggling, that doesn't affect your value as a person. It just means your business is struggling. You are not your business. It's important, it's vital to remember that. Never ever self-identify with your balance sheet. That leads on to the next one. Your profits are not your value. No matter how much you're making in profit, you are far more valuable than that. No matter how much you're struggling, no matter how many screaming children you're dealing with, remember your profits are not your value. And of course that means your business success is not a measure of your personal excellence. I know people who are struggling in business but are fantastic interpreters and translators and do amazing work, and it's just that they're struggling. I know other businesses who are doing well but have no right to because they treat their staff horribly or they treat their freelancers horribly. Your business success is not a measure of your personal excellence. Please don't tie the two together. And of course, the most important thing to remember, the thing that I want you never to forget, is that business failure isn't personal failure. The thing that I struggled with over the past few months that I've had to deal with the most is this idea that somehow if your business isn't earning enough, that's something wrong with you. Yeah, of course, if you're sitting on the couch all day watching Netflix and not doing anything, yes, your business results are going to reflect that. But if your business is struggling and you've done everything you possibly can, if you've put in the hours, if you've put in the hard work, if you've trained, if you've tried, if you've done all the things that worked last year and are not working now, that's not a personal failure. COVID-19 is around us, economic issues. Business failure does not ever equate to personal failure. Get a grip on your value. Understand who you are, how important you are, how valuable you are, how much of a difference you make to the people around you now. And that will help tide you over. You must understand that your personal value, your value as a human being, is nothing to do with the value that you're earning in your business, the monetary value. So now what? Now that we've busted the myth, now that we've gone back over them, now that we've realised how damaging they can be, now what? This all sounds like theory. What about practice? Everyone wants practical tips. Well, I can't give you an absolute guide. I can't tell you for sure what will work. If I could, I'd be making a whole lot more money than I'm making right now. Everyone's situation will be different. Everyone's skills are different. What I want to invite you to do either while you're watching this or at the end of it is to do a skills audit. What skills and abilities do you have? In Christian circles, we ask the question, what's in your hand? It's based on the story of Moses who met God in the burning bush, and God spoke from the burning bush and said, what's that in your hand? And Moses said, it's my staff. What's the ordinary thing in your hand? What skills do you have? What abilities do you have? What technology do you have now that you can use? Let's revisit these myths and see what they tell us about the practical steps that we can take. Myth of control, well, what can you control? You can control your action, your responses, your learning. You can work on controlling your thinking. You can choose in however much time you have, and I recognise many people have less time because they have children at home or they have people to look after. You can still control what you do in the time that you have. In terms of the myth of value, if you're not your business, if your business value and your personal value aren't the same thing, switch on from thinking about what you have, your balance sheet, your money, your computer, to what you can give. How can you help others? I highly recommend this book by Tim Redmond called Power to Create. And he points out there are two kinds of businesses. Businesses who concentrate on the bottom line, on money, on cash, on saving, or making. And businesses who concentrate on value, on the positive difference they can make to their clients, their customers, to the world around them. And his argument is that money chases value. Businesses who chase the bottom line tend to fail eventually because they tend to be shown up for the shallow businesses that they are. Businesses that commit to making a difference to the world around them, to their clients, their communities, those businesses last and the money chases them. He shows situations of that from prisoners to people in incredibly difficult situations in developing countries to multinational growing businesses in the West. It seems to work everywhere. Concentrate on value, not on money. Because life is unpredictable. The myth of prediction is a myth. We cannot predict what's going to happen. But that's fantastic because that creates opportunities that we didn't expect. I had a client recently come back after not talking to me for 4 years. They'd been away for 4 years and they came back and asked me to do a large, expensive piece of work. There are opportunities now that are coming to me from nowhere, including this one. I didn't see this coming. Because life is unpredictable, because you don't fully control everything, that means that better things can happen than you can imagine. That means that you can have abundant work when you weren't expecting it. The unexpected is a good thing. The unpredictable is a good thing because it means life can be better than you imagined. And of course, and I want to emphasize this, you're not the same as Mr. and Mrs. N+1. You're not the same person as any one of the presenters in this summit at all. So what does that mean? It means you don't need to follow their same path. You don't need to follow their diktats slavishly to the letter. But you can and you should create your own route, your own way of being, your own way of development. Look for your own opportunities that other people can't see. I was in Belgium just before everything shut down, and I pointed out that someone mentioned recently that science cannot deal with what it cannot see. You cannot create value with things that you cannot see. Look at what you're seeing. Are you seeing nothing but work drying away? Or are you seeing opportunities for work in places that you hadn't looked before? What are the opportunities that you haven't seen yet? One of the principles in Power to Create in that book is that people can either panic with problems, or they can find a way to do what's called brooding over them, looking at the problem, and he talks about praying over them or thinking about them, walking through them and seeing what is the opportunity in this difficulty, what is the opportunity in this challenge. It's the same for you. So learn from people, but please don't copy everything they do, because it won't work. So let's go to the rest of my story. I wanted to end on an up. Interpreting work, that's still very rare, if I'm honest. That hasn't really been much for a long time, but I'm now working on getting myself ready for remote. So here's a lesson here. Perhaps one stream of work isn't working. Prepare yourself to look for work related to it. Writing work. Oh, my writing work is strange because COVID-19 has created new opportunities. Even just today, as I'm recording this, a new opportunity to do some writing work has come in, an incredibly exciting one. So what other kinds of work have you got that actually COVID-19 is going to create work for you? What other services do you offer that are needed even more during COVID-19? Am I speaking work? Well, there are opportunities coming. There are training opportunities coming. It's fantastic. But I lost one training opportunity. I was going to have a nice travel to Germany to do some speaking. I'm now going to have to do that remotely. So the speaking's still there. Speaking work is growing and is still needed. And I'm now seeing, because of COVID-19, there are opportunities that I can see that weren't there before. But I need to adjust things. I need to get used to speaking remotely more often. I need to get used to creating content in new ways. And my overall income? Well, this month, as I'm recording, is looking to be a very good one. My next month looks like it's going to be one of my top 5 months of income, which is unusual, given that COVID-19 is going around and struggling is more common than doing well. But what does the rest of your story look like? Be one of my top 5 months of income, which is unusual, given that COVID-19 is going around and struggling is more common than doing well. But what does the rest of your story look like? Now what? I've told you my story. I've told you where I've been and where I'm going. I've talked about finding new streams even in the desert. I've talked about looking for opportunities that are created by COVID-19 that you might not have been in a position to deal with or to even see before. Now what? Now it's your turn. Now you get to write your story. Think what's in your hand. Think what you can do with the skills that you have. Think of how you can make a difference, how you can add value to the people around you, to your past, present, and future clients. We're all needing to adjust. It's uncomfortable for all of us, but there are streams in the desert if you look in the right places. Thank you very much.
Good day. Thank you for being with us. 1 second. Let me unmute your microphone, Jonathan. And Jonathan, are you here with us?
Hello. Yeah, I'm here with you. It took a little bit of technical fiddling, but there we go.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for that session and the content. I really appreciate it. Let me turn my microphone down just a little bit. And so a few folks had put in some questions related to issues with the broadcast. And so we are using GoToWebinar, or rather, live stream rather. It's in mixed bandwidth, and there are options to lower the quality. So if you go to the right of the video screen, you can lower the video quality on the broadcast. So if you're having issues, if the audio cuts in and out, the video starts and stops, at the bottom right of the video screen is a gear icon, and you can lower the video quality all the way down to mobile quality 360. I know that some countries, some locations are actually reducing HD video. Netflix and other things are being reduced from lower than HD. So you might have some issues receiving this in HD quality. So do remember at the bottom right of the video screen, you can adjust the video quality, and then Chrome mutes all videos from playing automatically. So the video will start, but it's going to be muted. That's not us, That's the Chrome browser. So every time the video starts, bottom left, you have to unmute the video. Sorry, I should have made that clear. So we've got questions available for Jonathan. There's also a poll that's available. You can toggle back and forth between the poll and the questions. But if you put in a question or you click over to the audience Q&A portion, thumbs up and thumbs down those questions so we can see which questions people want to talk about first. The first one's maybe more of a statement than a question, but someone said working for pro bono has great value. What are your thoughts about working pro bono? How much has that changed now that we're in COVID-19 mode?
So I have to be very careful and tread very lightly there. So I think there is a place for working pro bono, and certainly my earliest forays into interpreting were pro bono, but I think we mustn't let a crisis allow us to lower our standards beyond what we would be comfortable with afterwards. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with, giving some translation and interpreting time away to organisations who really need it, who wouldn't be able to do their work without it. But by the same token, I think we should be careful of clients trying to get something for free now that they would normally pay for. We don't want to create a situation where a client thinks, well, last week I got it for free, this week it's all gone, so can I still get it for free? If they're a large multinational, a large corporate, and even some of the larger NGOs, then they should be thinking about paying. It's what they would do normally. If, on the other hand, it's a charity or you're volunteering your services to back up professional services, that's perfectly fine. So your working pro bono is great, but when I was talking about creating value, I was talking about something a little bit different to our usual view of working pro bono.
Makes sense. So here's a few more questions submitted. Thank you, everybody, for submitting those questions. The next one is, at what point in your career did you decide myth-busting was better than following the path promoted?
In some ways, I'm a bit of a slow learner. I have a PhD, but that doesn't mean that I do things practically well. What happened is when the myths began to bust themselves, I realised we have a problem. And you keep doing what the coaches tell you to do, and then one day you realise this isn't working anymore. So you have to find a new way. And I think as a consultant interpreter, I feel like I tread halfway between the way that the interpreting profession has said that things work and the way that business coaches say that things work. And I used to try and kind of mix the two and do something halfway in between the two. And nowadays I've realised actually no one really knows how things work now. So you get inspired by people, but you're not going to follow their path because everyone's going on a different path now.
Well said. And I tend to agree that the myth of things will continue, and if I'm just doing the same thing yesterday that I did the day before, I'll have the same success. But thanks, folks, for putting these questions. So we've got a few questions about folks that are new to the industry. So what would be your advice for individuals who've only recently started their business? What can they do to try and add value to their work, considering startups always have difficulties in the first couple of years?
Well, I would say that depends on what kind of starter you are. I had it hard because I did the traditional languages undergraduate degree plus translation and interpreting postgraduate degree. And I started in 2008 when there was a financial crisis. Yay! So I'm used to having to swim against the tide anyway. And I would be very, very careful that what I meant was adding value to the people for whom your services would be valuable, not adding value to your services. So if, for example, you realise that there's a charity that you could help pro bono that would build up your portfolio, that's always good advice. But also think about, who is it that you would like to work with and what do they actually need right now? So if you are, say, a marketing translator, you might find that the clients that you want to do marketing work for don't really need marketing, but their staff might need a birth certificate translated, or they might need someone who can pass them to another kind of translation. I'm not saying translate a birth certificate if you're not qualified to, but familiarise yourself with the steps that would take and who does that, so that you can say to clients, oh, I've noticed that you've got to repatriate your workers. I happen to know someone in the travel translation business or the immigration translation business. The best thing that you can do at the moment is find out what people need and find a way of either offering them that or helping them find that. And it might not lead to work right away, but it's going to build a reputation that means that people will come back. you've gone mute.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. I do that every event. I forget to unmute myself. Thank you for that. So thanks for submitting those questions. We've got just about 2 or 3 minutes left for Q&A with Jonathan. And so do leave feedback. So click between the Q&A and the polls. There's a poll for feedback. We'd like to see some feedback for Jonathan's session. But this next question we're going to ask is, so it was a great presentation. Any particular suggestions or advice for translation students during this crisis? So thank you for asking that, Clara. What would you advise students?
I am always cagey about giving advice because of the rule of N+1. If I were a translation student right now, I would be, at the moment, either thinking, is the translation that I can do something that is needed massively right now? So there are certain areas of translation that are needed. If you're a trained medical translator, you're very much needed. If, on the other hand, you're, I don't know, a tourism translator, it may be worthwhile putting off starting your business for a year and finding some other source of income, just because there isn't a lot of tourism around right now. If you can stay safe and earn some other more reliable way, that might be better for you. But on the other hand, it really depends on your specialism, where you are, what kind of country you're in, what the atmosphere is. But have a think about and, you know, get the honest impression of people in the area of translation that you want to work in, and see if you can get the honest impression of what's work doing right now in my country in this area. If it's not doing much, if the experienced translators are struggling, this probably isn't the best time to launch. But if you're a translation student, it means that you can be thinking about the issues raised by this crisis as you're still a student. And that's a great way of preparing to run a business.
And we've got maybe, I said, just about 2 more questions I'd like to get to. Again, thank you everybody for submitting those questions. Someone asked what language pairs you work in. Could you tell us real quick?
I work in both directions between French and English, and I'm a consultant, so I hire interpreters in lots of languages. Or sorry, I arrange for them to be hired in lots of languages, and I need to get that the right way around.
You arrange them to be hired. That's slightly different. So someone's asking, and there's a couple of related questions about how to respond to the crisis in terms of either giving some free work or lowering your rate. So someone's saying, is it a good thing to lower your expected prices to get the first project, or do they need to get some sort of certification? It's an adamant no. Okay, tell us, Jonathan.
No, it's never a good idea to devalue your work. My experience, I did this the hard way. I found this out the hard way. There was one client who she said, oh, just this once. And I went, okay, just this once. And then just this once became just this second time. And I ended up having to dump that client because I realized that I could actually make more working for McDonald's. So no, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, and I'll say I've hired sales professionals. I've worked in sales organizations for years and years and years. And as someone who hires people, if you don't negotiate at the beginning in terms of getting more value, getting more versus going down, I think you're not a very good salesperson. And when I have a vendor, I won't say who, but I negotiated aggressively over a decade ago, and I still have the lowest rate. And this is like a Fortune 500 company. They call me every year and they complain, you're at the lowest rate. And I say, okay, give it to me and I'll keep renewing. And they keep doing it. So I agree. Don't discount. So last question. Thank you everybody for submitting these. This one is about telephonic interpreting. And I'll just highlight that we've got throughout the next 3 days quite a few sessions about remote simultaneous interpreting. Cyril Belange is going to talk about RSI platforms. Claudia Brower on Friday is going to talk about a 14-day challenge to retrain for remote simultaneous interpreting. And I know there's probably opinions about RSI, VRI, and platforms. What are your thoughts about remote interpreting? Is this something that folks should look at as a feasible way, or what are your thoughts?
So I think we need to differentiate between over-the-phone interpreting, video remote interpreting, and remote simultaneous. Those are 3 very different things. And there's one assumption in this question that I think too many of us in the language industry have had, and that is that our rates are dependent on the ones being offered. There are cases where that's the case. So if you work in, say, community interpreting or public service interpreting, largely there are large government contracts that are centralised, and so things are fixed and it's very difficult to get anything else but what's fixed. Fine. But for as long as we have the view that our rates are whatever someone is offering us, we haven't inculcated the view that we are a business. And so I would say remote simultaneous interpreting, video remote interpreting are absolutely fantastic. They're really, really good ways of allowing your business to continue. If you're an interpreter, I'm going to be looking into, I'm going to be doing my sign-ups for video remote interpreting over the next couple of weeks. But I would say they work to the extent that we get them to work right. So, for example, at the moment, my laptop right now is on Wi-Fi. If I was doing any form of remote interpreting, I would not be on Wi-Fi. I would be hardwired into my router, which is less than a meter away. Even though I'm less than a meter away, I would be Etherneted in. I already have the cable, one of the adapters ready to do it. So make sure that your setup is right. Treat it as you would a standard job, and don't charge any less than you would in person. Because if anything, as one of my colleagues said recently, she said, if anything, we should be charging more because it's harder. And I say that's absolutely right. You know, charge exactly the same or more as you would in person. Push for the same preparation time. Push for the same level of treatment. Make sure that you're as visible, if not more visible, as you would be. And so, yes, these things are good. Unless it's in specific areas where you have kind of large national contracts, the rate being offered is not the end of the story. Let's not pretend it is. Treat ourselves as businesses. And if we're going to start offering those services, make sure you know the platform as well, and make sure that you're in charge of your own work. Don't allow it to just be, I'm waiting for the work to come. Go out and seek it. Go out and make yourself available. Make sure that you can deliver what you promise. So yes, it's good, but treat it as seriously as you would in-person interpreting. Think about your price plans very carefully. I wouldn't advise charging per minute if you can get away with it. But, you know, treat it as professionally as you would in person, and deliver as near to the same quality as you would in person, and you'll be okay.
Great, well said. Well, Jonathan, thank you for the session. Thank you for submitting this. I know that you did this in rapid fashion. We announced this less than a couple of weeks ago, and you got in touch and made the content recording. We're here for Q&A. So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much. And please do leave feedback for Jonathan.
You're welcome.
These events, we've got almost 1,300 people watching, so thank you all for being here. These events are not possible without speakers like Jonathan, so do visit his profile, leave some feedback, and he's got a book that's available through Reuters that's on pros.com/books. Oh, 2 books, forgive me, Jonathan, published author. And in terms of interpreting and remote interpreting, there is a pool at pros.com/pools, and you can join the interpreter pool. Enrique Manzo works with those folks and can kind of connect you with some of the clients that are hiring through those platforms. But Jonathan, thank you so much for the wonderful session. I think it was great that you acknowledged things are different, but you still had some very optimistic and positive things to view in that time. So thank you. We're going to go ahead and end this session. We're just about a minute behind, so I'm going to start the next session pretty quickly. This will be a session from Paul Irwin, one of Pros.com's trainers, on working from home. Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, everybody.
See you later.
Just got a little bit of a late start there. We're going to go ahead and get started with Jonathan's session. Thank you.
لو انت بتشوف ده دلوقتي فاحب اقول لك انت بطل، ومش بطل بس، انت بطل مغوار. شكرا لمشاهدتك الفيديو بالكامل، واتمنى تكون استفدت حاجه. اتمنى كمان ان شاء الله ان انا اشوفك في حلقات جايه بتشاهدني وتستفاد وتكتب لي في التعليقات الجايه، وبرضه في تعليقات الفيديو ده لو عندك افكار او وصلت الفكره او بدات في مشروع، او لو القناه اضافت لك شيء، او لو الفيديو ده اضاف لك شيء. اتمنى كمان تشاركني في الفيديو ده بآرائك وافكارك وتقييمك للقناه وتقييمك للفيديوهات، ولو عندك اي فكره حابب اننا نتكلم عنها او اي موضوع حابب اننا نعرضه. ان شاء الله نقدر نعدي مع بعض الى بر الامان، ونقدر نتخلص من جائحه كورونا على مستوى العالم كله، علشان العالم كله يعيش في سلام وامان. جائحه كورونا اعلت قيمه الانسان واضافت لنا كلنا معاني مهمه على المستوى الانساني اكثر من كونها على المستوى المالي والاقتصادي. يمكن التخوف الوحيد اللي في موضوع كورونا هو التخوف من وقوع العالم في أزماته اللي بيولدها طول الوقت وبيخترعها طول الوقت على جنب، وبدأ إن هو يفكر في التكاتف ويفكر في إن هو الإنسان يبقى كمخلوق إنسان. أشوفكم إن شاء الله في فيديوهات جاية، وما تنساش عمل لايك وشير للقناة يمكن غيرك يستفاد منها، وعمل لايك وشير للفيديو يمكن غيرك يستفاد منه، وما تنساش تشترك في القناة لو أنت لسه ما اشتركتش. السلام عليكم.
لا تنسوا الإعجاب بالفيديو والاشتراك في القناة تشجيعا لنا لنستمر بنشر المزيد إن شاء الله.